Great, so we can get started. So thank you again to everyone for joining the webinar today about the dissemination of admin rights. So we've been getting a few queries over the last few months. Sorry, just one message here from Rachel. No problem. Just about, I guess, what our approach is, what UCL Partners' approach is to handing out admin rights. So we thought we'd just do a quick webinar to share our experiences to date. And then we're going to have Erica from CData give us a little bit of an overview about how they can help and what kind of resources and supports are available for you if you want to kind of to go down this road. So, and my screen has frozen. Sorry. Okay, so I thought I'd just share initially a little bit about our story so far, who we've given the admin rights to and who we're in the process of doing that with. I'll then share a little bit about our approach. So I guess this fits into what criteria we look for when we give out admin rights and what our just kind of general approach to this is. I'm then going to go through our MOU that we've created for this process, and I will be able to share this with you all afterwards. Happy for you to adapt that. And then just talk a little bit more about, I guess, some considerations and some challenges that we would kind of keep in mind going forward with this, which will hopefully be helpful to you. And then I'm going to hand over to Erica, who's going to talk a little bit more about support and resources from LifeQI. And then we're going to open it up to questions. Does that sound okay to everyone?
Good.
Yeah? Okay. Great. Feel free to ask me any questions as we go along. That's completely fine. Or you can use the chat function here as well, and I'll cover them at the end. So to start with, I guess UCL Parrish Story so far. So we have handed over admin rights to one trust and one CCG to this date. We did this a few months before the new site launch, so and that launched in October, so a few months before that we were kind of in this process. So initially we wanted to test this out in a very informal way. And the reason why we picked this trust and this CCG was, I guess, one, they showed a lot of interest. They were really engaged organizations, so they had been kind of key players on our local user group for quite a while for us. They wanted admin rights for, I guess, in our eyes, for the right reasons, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. In terms of location-wise, it was quite easy for us to kind of develop a relationship with them and to keep engagement levels up quite high because they were just right around the corner from us. So yeah, so we tested this out in an informal way, and by informal I mean we didn't have an MOU at that stage, we didn't have a kind of defined process that we followed. So we had those kind of initial discussions about why they wanted admin rights, about what that kind of meant for their organization, what the kind of roles and responsibilities around that were. And then we just kind of went from there. We, down the line, organized some webinars with Erica and Jason to help facilitate some of the more reporting analytics side of things. Yeah, so it just worked out really well. It's still working out really well, and we maintain engagement, and I've got a great relationship with these two organizations. They're using admin rights to really support improvement work in their trusts, and that's really important to us. So because this worked out quite well, we wanted to put, I guess, a more formal, so put some of the learnings from that onto paper in the form of an MOU for when we took it forward. So we're now in the process of handing over admin rights to two further trusts within our partnership. So one is a bit further along than the other. So we developed an MOU for this, which I will go into a lot more detail in just a few minutes. But yeah, we kind of put all the learnings from the first two trials into this. The reason why we decided on these two trusts, again, they were quite engaged with us in terms of the local user group and just maintaining contact with myself. They again, wanted admin rights for the right reasons to support improvement work within their trust. And another kind of key reason why we went with these two first to kind of test out this formal process was because they're two of our kind of bigger users in terms of live QI. So one had breached the 500 user license limit that UCL Partners provides. So it was kind of key that we move things along for them a bit sooner. And the second one is kind of approaching 500 now, so that's why we've kind of delayed that a little bit to kind of test out things with the initial trust first. But they're both quite high users, so in terms of looking at that user list, it was important that we worked with them on the admin side of things as well. And we've also scheduled some support, so both from myself and with Erica in terms of webinars. So yeah, it's a bit slower than what I initially anticipated, but I will go into kind of the learnings from that in a bit. So I just wanted to, I guess, touch on what UCL Partners' approach has been to handing out admin rights, and to look at it from a perspective of when to give admin rights and when not to. So I guess first of all, when to give admin rights, there's a few kind of key things that we look for. So I'll just go through a few points. So one is, have you got a strong working relationship with this partner organization, and especially with the individuals that are looking for admin rights? Another point, has there been evidence of good engagement from their part in the past, and especially in relation to live QI? So with the trusts that we're working with at the minute, they have been regular participants of our local user group. They've submitted ideas for development for the platform. They've regularly engaged with us on how they can better use live QI to support improvement work within their trust. So those are a few key factors that we were looking for. Another point is that they fully understand the roles and responsibilities of having admin permissions on live QI. So, for example, that someone will have to verify users, that you have to attend our local user group every month, a few things like that. So just that they understand what is involved and that they have clear expectations, and that they're very clear on why they want to have admin rights for their organization. Another point is that to look out for is that they have a robust QI strategy and a QI team in place, that they're clear on who is going to have the role of an admin within the organization. So I've been in touch with, more senior people within organizations before, but it's not clear who's going to be doing the practical admin work of creating reports and verifying people, so just being clear about that from the beginning. Equally important that they have some exec support, that this is encouraged and that they have that support to fall back on within their trust. And being clear about the 500 user license caps in the HSN. So that's something we kind of touched on in the MOU. I'll go into that into more detail. So the second part is when not to give it. So this is a little bit more tricky. I would say obviously keep in mind a lot of the points I mentioned in when to give admin rights, but also a few kind of, red flags to look out for is if they don't demonstrate a clear understanding of why they want admin rights. So again, we've had lots of interest in organizations wanting admin rights, but if they're not clear about why they want it, I'd kind of press them a bit further and kind of get to the nooks and crannies of that, because a few people have seen it as an additional functionality that would be nice to have, but they're not clear about what they want to do with it. Another thing is when organizations are looking at live QI from a KPI perspective, so more as a tick box and not as a mechanism to support quality improvement projects within their organization. So I'd say just be careful about that. We have been approached about that in the past, and we have decided not to go ahead with admin rights in that case. So yeah, so there are just a few things to keep in mind that we've kind of learned as we went along. So now I'm going to go through the MOU that we've created in a bit more detail, just to kind of outline our understanding as you go through it. As I said, happy to share this with everyone, and you can adapt to fit your HSN. So I'll send out a copy of this afterwards. So just to kind of go through it step by step. So in the initial kind of background sequencing, we firstly outline, okay, what is Live QI, so just basics of that. From the onset, we highlight that 500 user licenses are available for free from the AHSN. So just to make that clear and have that open communication about this is what's available, and especially important for these organizations that are at that point already. And then we just kind of highlighted the value of these licenses as well, because I think that's something that was kind of missing from our communications in the past, that people didn't realize how valuable this was. We then went on to highlight our approach. So I'll just read this out because we thought this is quite important to include. So we said the UCL Partners approach is one of openness and equity, recognizing that much of the most successful improvement work comes from those working on the front line. We strongly encourage partner organizations to follow this approach and not to limit the use of the platform to certain staff or work settings. So the reason we included this is because we didn't want organizations to use the 500 HSN user licenses as a way to kind of prevent anyone in their organization or to kind of more tightly control QI projects within their organization. So, for example, if someone on the front line is working on a completely valid quality improvement project, they wanted to put on Live QI, but if it didn't align to organizational priorities or the QI strategy, that they would still be able to use the platform, that it wouldn't be restricted to particular departments, particular staff groups, and so on. So we just want to ensure that that equity and openness is kind of set and that expectation is there from the onset. We then went on to talk about the purpose of this MOU, so again, pretty straightforward. The next key part was highlighting the roles and responsibilities of the partner organization and the and UCL partners as well. So just to make sure things are very clear and transparent, who's going to be verifying users, who's going to be attending the local user groups, making sure there's open communication between them and UCL partners, who's going to monitor the user activity on an ongoing basis. So just kind of more practical details of who's going to carry this out. And then from UCL partners as well, so we will be responsible for training them, for going over the responsibilities, for arranging additional support, so being that point of contact between them and CData. And also we'd be there as a backup as well, so if the admins are on annual leave or anything happens, we would be there as a backup to verify users and so on. The rest of the MOU is pretty standard and straightforward. Just to mention one thing at the end, so we said that UCL Partners reserves the right to withdraw admin user privileges from the partner if, I guess, the roles and responsibilities of the partner organization aren't being carried out. So just to reiterate that. Yeah, so I'll send you all a copy of that. If you've got any more questions, please do let me know. Just to mention, I often use this as a kind of starting point when we have that kind of initial discussion about admin rights. It's just, I find it quite a useful tool to go through step by step, just so everyone is clear about what the expectations are, and just everything is quite open and transparent. Any questions about the MOU before I move on? No? Is that all okay?
Not a question, Emma, but just kind of a point, and I think that sets out really clearly, and especially kind of their roles and responsibilities. Some of the organisations wouldn't know that they have to do some of that, so I think it's good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's just being completely clear about every step of the process, and especially who is going to practically do this and who you need to maintain a relationship with. Exactly. So just to finish on then some considerations, and I think I've touched on a few of these already. So number one, I'd say when people first approach you, be very clear to understand why they're looking for admin rights, what the kind of reasoning is behind that. Look at your relationship that you have with them at the minute, what their level of engagement is, who is approaching you, just those key factors to build that initial picture. And then I would say moving forward in your kind of initial discussions, like Erica kind of mentioned, set some clear expectations, make sure the roles and responsibilities are laid out really clearly. And then finally, I would say maintain engagement. I found that a site visit and a kind of face-to-face is really useful at the beginning of the process. You don't need to do that for every discussion, but I think that's really valuable to maintain or to kind of start that relationship. And again, in terms of maintaining engagement, it would be ad hoc, but we do regular calls, schedule support when needed, and I work quite closely with Erica to do that. But also there's a requirement in the MOU that they attend our local youth group, and that happens every 6 weeks now. Or if they can't attend, someone will in their replacement. So yeah, so there are kind of main learnings going forward. Just to reiterate, we are in the kind of beginning stages of this. There's no black and white approach to this. We just thought it'd be helpful to share our approach and our learnings to date. But yeah, I guess we can save some questions for the end, maybe have a discussion around this. But I'm just going to hand you over to Erica now, who's going to talk a little bit about what support and resources are available from LifeQI to help support this process.
Thanks, Emma. Okay, just kind of a few points from me really to kind of outline essentially how we can support your organisations. So most of these things that Emma discussed can be done by you guys. We are there to obviously help you if there's anything that you need further help or guidance with. But obviously you are the main point of call for your organisations. We have got an admin guide on the Learning Centre. We just popped the link to that admin guide there for you. And what that basically details is what becoming an admin means. So exactly as Emma said, verifying new user accounts, you have the ability to have increased kind of permissions to the platform, so you can do your own report templates and construct your own dashboards. You can also make other people admins, but I think one of the most important things is realizing that when you give them admin rights, they are going to be assigning your licenses to other users in their organizations, which is fantastic because they then do start to take that ownership of of their organizations, and they have that overview of their whole organizations. So they can see all the dashboards and the analytics and tailor things specific to them. Although we do have some default things on the platform that everyone can use, it could be that certain trust boards are reporting on certain metrics that then the admin users for that trust, that hospital, are then able to pull off exactly what they need. In regards to the level of support, obviously we encourage you to support your users as much as possible, and also the admin users within each organisation will then become the first point of contact for their LifeQI users. They're essentially kind of naturally become the LifeQI champions for their organisation, and they know the system inside out. So it's just letting them know that obviously we are kind of the last point of call at that stage, so it kind of goes through a hierarchy. But obviously for anything, anyone needs a bit more support or a bit more kind of guidance around, we are here for you. We've got obviously the LifeQI support team via the help desk. You can come through to me, or we've also got live chat as well. So numerous ways to get hold of us if you do need any further support. I think it's just worth saying that a lot of HSNs are approaching this in different ways, and I wouldn't say there's any right way or there's any wrong way. Obviously, Emma's very kindly shown how she's approached this with a couple of trusts that she's been working with, and I know that a lot of other HSNs are starting to get more and more of these requests coming through, and it's just understanding what it entails. You don't need to make it too big. But equally, if you want to kind of go to the MOU degree that Emma's gone, then fantastic. I think it really, really sets your relationship up with your colleagues very, very clearly. So, any questions on that? And I think just to reiterate as well, if we do get contacted by any of your member organisations, obviously forward in your regions, we wouldn't assign them admin rights. That's not our job. We would obviously contact you and then put you in contact with the organisations that contacted us, all right? We would never do that on your behalf. So just wanted to reiterate that as well.
That's brilliant, Erica. Thank you.
That's okay.
Just one thing I forgot to mention earlier, which I think is important to mention. So one of the benefits from us when we do give over admin rights is that when we verify users, especially now that a lot of people have an nhs.net email address, it's really difficult for us to kind of cross-check that and see if they actually work at that particular organisation. So if you have an admin in a trust, for example, they'll be able to check if they actually work there, and again, keep on top of the user list if people have moved on. And we get quite a lot of turnover, especially with junior doctors moving to different trusts. So the admin teams that I have worked with will let me know straight away, and then we can move people over to and assign them to the correct organisation. So that it's just a way to kind of keep on top of things, keep the user list nice and tidy, and just another kind of stock take, I guess, in the verification process.
Yeah.
So that's quite helpful.
And it also, I think one of the positive things from the whole situation is obviously relieves your administration tasks as well.
Yeah.
So it's not all down to you at the HSN anymore. You can kind of disseminate these rights down, and as I say, give those organisations ownership of who joins from that organisation as well.
Yeah.
So it's verification off you guys and puts it on to them. So obviously, ultimately, saving you an additional administration task.
Exactly.
So what are the thoughts of people on the call? Are you kind of you gearing up to provide admin rights for us? Or are you kind of interested in obviously how Emma's done it, to take it back and away, to think about it in more detail?
Probably do with, sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say it's been really useful, and I think I will look at Emma's approach and seriously consider handing down admin rights to a few of our key trusts.
Yeah, yeah. And again, if you need any support from me, sorry, was that Jeff? Sorry, Jeff or Paul. If you need any support from me, then please just let me know, all right? More than happy to help in any way that I can.
Thank you.
Sorry, Paul.
Sorry, Paul from Innovation Agency. We've got two areas that we've disseminated rights to, but I think it's one of those, the sort of areas that don't know about it, don't know what the benefits are. So certainly like the custom reports and things like that. If there is a QI specialist team, I think they would find it useful to have those rights. Do they also need admin rights to set the priorities at the organisation level?
Yes, to edit the organisation profile, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless they've got edit rights with the organisation, but admin would also cover that off, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think you're right, Paul. It's good to discuss the benefits as well, what could benefit their organisation in those initial discussions, definitely. Has anyone else been approached maybe by some of their partner organisations about this?
Jo here from Kent, Surrey, Sussex. We've got one already, Erica's, where one of our trusts, or one of our community mental health trusts, community trusts has already got rights, but we're working with them in more detail to go over what they've got, and we are approaching to other trusts just to go in and start. Actually, one of the trusts doesn't even use Life, so we're trying to build that up as well. So yeah, we're just widening our approach to offering our support. Really, I'd be quite interested about the local user group you have.
Yeah. So I'm kind of relaunching in another sense of that in September. So when they originally met monthly, I think, we saw kind of fall in engagement in that. So I'm trying to kind of relaunch it in an effort to make it more proactive, I guess, and more sustainable from their point of view. So they have a chance to kind of feed into development, to learn from each other, and I think going forward it'll be a lot more useful and valuable to them, especially with more and more people having admin rights and sharing their approaches. We already have, quite a small group at the minute, but I'm going to reach out to new people as well to see how they can learn from each other and grow. But some of our key trusts who we initially worked with in terms of admin rights back at the beginning are now starting to share that with other organisations, which is quite nice to see.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anyone else with any questions? Can I just ask for people who have kind of worked with organisations on admin rights, how many people have you kind of worked with within that organisation? So I've been working with, I guess, 2 or 3 key people. So I'm just curious what your approaches have been. And has it been the QI team as well, or has it been someone else?
It's mainly been the QI team, yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3 in the QI team at the couple of hospitals.
Yeah, I think that's important as well. It's kind of who do you target, or who have you been contacted by, I guess. So making sure that, I guess, in an essence, that they're the right people. I guess there's no wrong people, but making sure that they understand their organisation's profile on the system and kind of what's their key objectives and their aims, what are they trying to accomplish, and kind of working with them on that as well.
Exactly. Great. So I guess we don't have any more questions. So like I said, I've recorded this webinar, so I'll send out the recording later in the week with our MOU as well, along with the slides as well, just to kind of signpost that information in the Learning Centre. But if anyone has any questions in the meantime, please just send me a line. I'm happy to get back in touch with you guys if you've got any more specific questions you'd like to discuss. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Helpful. Thank you.